Hey friend, welcome to Self Transformed, a podcast dedicated to transforming your health in less time and guilt-free through the power of habit hacking. This isn't your typical wellness podcast, friend, so hang on tight. I'm your host, Emily Nichols, habit and fitness coach and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. Hey, I know the struggle is real when it comes to taking care of you. As a busy working mom myself, my clients and I have felt physically and emotionally drained, but lack the time and confidence to actually make ourselves a priority. Plus, all the health advice out there is so confusing and overwhelming, right? Redefining what true health really means paired with habit strategy from the female perspective has been the key to empowering my clients and even myself to finally create a consistent, healthy lifestyle that doesn't feel hard or just like another thing on your long to-do list. I'm now on a mission to equip you with these same sustainable habit hacks and affordable tools to help reset your habits in any season of your life in order to help you thrive. So if you're ready to habit hack your health and create your transformation together, then let's do this. You're listening to episode 185 of Self Transformed. Hey friend, Happy New Year! I hope you had a wonderful holiday season with your family and friends. If my voice is going in and out today, I had a great holiday season as well, but unfortunately coming off of having the flu, my voice has been coming and going, so excuse the voice, but I hope you have come into 2023 with some goals in mind and not focused on all the things you want to do, but more so who you want to be in 2023 and the habits that will help support you in who you want to be. And that's actually something we're talking about in the society all month of January. Now, friend, today is a very special day because Habit Transformation Bootcamp launches today. I am taking recruits, though, throughout the rest of this week because I didn't promote it as much as I wanted to last week because I was feeling under the weather. So you won't be behind, promise, but this is it's a new program. It's a 6-week live group coaching experience with one-on-one coaching available as well, which I'm so excited about. I love talking to you all one-on-one as well. But week by week, we will be dismantling the way we see habit strategy, focused on how do we do habits differently as women, getting rid of the diet culture like BS and really simplifying health and actually tracking a healthy habit for 21 days. So at the end of the 6 weeks, you are going to feel so empowered and confident because you did it. And, I think a lot of times this time of year, we start thinking about all the things we want to do and it can become overwhelming, especially when in regards to our health, right? So we're only going to pick one track, which is what I'm the most excited about boot camp. So you'll either pick a movement, mindset, or food freedom track. There is either a workout ebook that I created for you, a food freedom guide, or 5 walking meditations if that is the track you want to focus on. You get all 3 no matter what. And with the one-on-one coaching, we'll decide which one is best for you in this season of your life. Also, if you want to do anything else in regards to that, like maybe the track you want to focus on is movement, you're doing the workouts I provide for you, but maybe you want to walk every day or go to like a group fitness class. We'll talk about that one-on-one, which I'm excited about because it's a lot more individualized coaching. But in that group experience, because I want you to know that you're not alone and that a lot of us face the same challenges, and I'm going to give you the strategy to help you do this. And it's not something where after 6 weeks you're done. You have a plan now to take you through the rest of your life and help you pivot throughout all seasons of your life. We'll talk about it but in the boot camp, but you'll walk away with a healthy habit plan that is made for you. That's going to leave you feeling really empowered, confident, and stepping into the version of yourself that you want to be for your loved ones, where you're just not barely, surviving. You're coming from a place of burnout and overwhelm. You're pouring from that really, really, really empty cup, but rather you're coming from a place where you're thriving, you're doing what you can, and you are giving that overflow. The pitcher is so full, it's overflowing, and your loved ones get that. and we all deserve that. So like I said, I'm the most excited about being able to have you pick a certain track. Being a fitness and habit coach, I've seen it all. I've seen it all. And over the past 3 years, I've been able to build this program based on simplicity, based on knowing what a busy working mom entrepreneur needs and giving that to you in a way that's going to be really accessible. Okay, this isn't going to take up a lot of your time, but it's going to be super transformative. So if you want to join us, there's a link in the show notes. You can go to bit.ly/habit transformation bootcamp. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly. Also, happening next week, January 10th through the 12th, the Healthy Habit Reset Live is back. This is something I do every quarter live. It's my free masterclass to help you reset your habits for whatever season of life you are in right now. So we do this live every quarter. It's the 10th through the 12th. We'll be going live at 12 p.m. Eastern each of those days via Zoom and a Facebook group. A couple of options. If you don't want to get on Facebook, I just have a Zoom link as well. And you'll get the replays. I'm only going to be live like 15, 20 minutes max because I know you're busy. You'll get a worksheet to help you work through the 5-step habit change method that I only teach there, and I incorporate it into my programs and in the society as well, of course. But we need to reevaluate what's working for us and what's not working for us. And about every quarter, it's a good time to do that, especially in the new year, right? So we're going to sit down. You're going to learn the method. You're going to really think about health differently. And then the last day, we're going to bridge the gap to actually figuring out what you need to do right now and the strategy to help you get there, and doing that from the female perspective. And I give you major accountability, y'all. You'll start tracking your that new habit for 21 days after the reset. And I actually check in on you 21 days later, which is so fun. The last time we did this live, it was really cool to hear back from the ladies and be like, I did it, or this was my challenge, and kind of work through that with them. So that's linked in the show notes for you. I'd love for you to join us at bit.ly/free reset masterclass. So this time of year, I know we are just trying to be so intentional with our goals, right? You've maybe created a vision board, you're using your new planner, but most of the time we do too much. Right? We have the best of intentions, but we're like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to talk nicer to myself. Oh, I'm going to schedule in time for me and my husband. I'm going to have like one-on-one time with each of my kids. I'm going to, learn how to scrapbook or do some other type of fun hobby. And I'm going to put it all on my calendar to do this. And even though we have the best of intentions, we tend to get overwhelmed and then burnt out. And then we don't do anything, right? It's that all or nothing mentality. What if, hang with me here, what if we broke our goals down into priorities, not just thinking about your goals, but the priorities and the habits that will help you get there? What if we broke it down into 15-minute chunks? Huh? I mean, something is better than nothing, right? Something is better than nothing. And I know you want to do more. I know you want to do it all, but I have to ask you, how's that been working out for you so far? How's that been working out for you? Because I get it. I have started and stopped things so many times because a Monday morning I'm feeling really motivated and then life gets in the way and I was trying to do too much, right? That's why we had the whole Atomic Habits for Women series in December, is because we have to do habits differently as women. Well, in thinking about the new year and setting goals and really thinking about those smaller chunks, and P.S., that's why we just do one track in Habit Transformation Bootcamp so we don't get overwhelmed. I am so excited to bring on Cara Harvey from A Purpose-Driven Mom. She is going to give you some really strategic ways to create and meet your goals in 15-minute chunks. And you may be like, how am I going to do this in 15 minutes? Trust me, you can. And you will. We have to do this differently, though, as women, because we have all those extra reactive interruptions happening in our lives. And sometimes we just have that all or nothing mentality. So Cara's going to break that down for us. So let me tell you a little bit about Cara. She's a wife. She's a mom, a woman of God. She works as a mom empowerment coach, and her mission is to provide women with the tools, resources, and community, love that, to reach their goals, empower themselves, find their happiness, and really just live a life by design, right? She does this via her blog, podcast, virtual community groups, and e-courses that help women learn to balance their lives, their finances, their schedules, health, and themselves. And she does this from such a place of simplicity without the overwhelm, which I think is something we really need to focus on in the new year. If you're coming off of 2022 feeling like, man, I wasn't able to reach any of my goals, I want you to ask yourself, well, maybe you were trying to do too much. So today we're going to simplify that into 15-minute intervals or chunks for you, if you will. Okay, so get a pad of paper and a pen ready to take some notes, and make sure to stick around to the end where I'll share my 3 biggest takeaways for you. All right, let's get into this conversation with Cara Harvey of A Purpose-Driven Mom. Okie dokie, gang. Let's dig into our conversation today with Cara Harvey of A Purpose-Driven Mom. Cara, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Emily.
I'm so excited to chat with you and get into goal setting, finding the time, all the things our audience likes to focus on and try to take action on. So we really want to have some actionable items for the self-transformed listeners today. But Cara, the first question I ask every guest is, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase self-transformed?
So I love that. I was thinking a lot about that because I know that for my audience, right, and probably for yours too, we have lost this power that we can change things in our lives. Like we feel so beaten down and the confidence isn't there anymore. And when I think about self-transformed, it feels like this empowerment of me stepping into this place where I feel capable to change things in my life, right? Like I don't think we can do everything by ourselves by any means, but I think if we don't believe we can at least change something, then nothing will trickle down. So when I think of self-transformed, I think about that. I think about this empowerment of, wait, I can make things the way that I want. Not that everything in my life is terrible, but I deserve to be in a place that feels good.
Totally. Oh, I love that. Taking the power back, having that empowerment. Because like you said, a lot of times that's taken away from us because we're giving all of our power and energy away to everyone and everything else, right?
Completely.
I love it. Okay, well, let's talk about you a little bit. Let's let our audience get to know you a little bit, Cara. If they don't know you already, can you share maybe your own transformation story, thinking about where you've been and what that has led you to really what you do today, but most importantly, who you are today?
Sure. Yeah, it's so funny because I used to hate personal growth and development. I would like tuck and roll in the aisle because I didn't want anyone to see me. Like I thought people who did stuff like that were like clapping in their car to Tony Robbins weirdos. Like I was like, nope, not it for me. And it was about 15 years ago when I picked up my first personal growth book. And that's when I feel like my self-transformation journey began, because before that, I didn't believe in myself. I really struggled as a kid and in my 20s with anxiety and depression. There were times where I thought about taking my own life, and I was lost. I really was. And right around that time where I picked up that very first book, which was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, I recommend it. Such a great one. It's really kind of started this ball for me rolling in productivity coaching. It's when I realized I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to give everything all the time to have people care about me, and that I can show up for myself in tiny chunks, and that is what actually matters. And that's what got me started with everything I've done. So that was 15 years ago. I've only had my business 5 years. And that was when I was teaching. I was a burnt out, overwhelmed school teacher for about 10 years. And I loved it. I really did. I wanted to do it forever, but I couldn't do it anymore because I had lost myself. And I remember just like crying in the car one day. And I came home to my husband and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm at school all day from 6 to 6. I'm there on the weekends. The school I worked at was a high performance charter school. So the kids went to school every other Saturday from 8 to 12. I mean, I lived there and it was all that I knew. And around year 8, I said to my husband, I got to do something else. So he said, all right, cool. Like, how are we going to make money? And I thought, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And that year, I hate the word hustle now, but I will admit it is kind of what I did. I found some network marketing company that I was like, listen, I don't have to replace my income, but can I make enough to just leave? And I kind of put myself all into that. And it was interesting, because when I left teaching at the end of that 9th year, I was able to not replace my teaching income in network marketing, but make that bare minimum. I thought, great, this is like a new chapter for me. But what I didn't prepare myself for was the fallout and the identity crisis that came with it. I had been Miss Camilleri for student teaching, like for so long in my life, that is all I was. And that's who I thought I would be for my whole life. And that first year out, I struggled a lot. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was because I had lost myself. And then I jumped into network marketing and I started to do the same things that were burning me out teaching, like inbox zero, carrying my laptop everywhere. Like I was still working. I went from working 60 hours a week to 40 hours a week, but I was still grinding all the time. And I did that for about 3 years. And you know what, I'll tell you, Emily, on the outside, it looked great. I had this like 6-figure business and 250 people on my team. And like, I was doing the thing, but on the inside, I was drowning because I realized I was down that same path. And so right around it actually will be 5 years ago. So November 5th is my business's 5-year anniversary. So 5 years ago, I remember being 8 months pregnant with my son. And I said to my husband, I think I'm going to leave network marketing. Like, I don't feel called to this anymore. I've lost myself again. I was down the same path. And I was like, I just think there's something else I can do. There's just more here for me. And he said, cool, we need to make money. It's like a story, like, whatever he's the most supportive person ever, where he's like, whatever you want to do, we need to make money. Like, we have to pay the bills. Right. And I was like, I think I'm just going to like start a lifestyle blog and like feel that out for a little bit. And I said, are we good? This is fine. I can do this because, you know, and honestly, to this day, I've never quit my network. Like, I still technically work at the network, you know what I mean? Like, I get a paycheck because I built such a big team, which is great. You know, I'll take that any day. But I was like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, it's going to plateau the income. And then about a month later, my husband was laid off and lost his job and was out of work for 8 months. And so during this time period, I had my son and I still stuck with it. You know, I nursed him at 2 days old over a boppy pillow and I bought a domain and I thought, let's just try this. Let's see what happens. And it was very challenging. So not only was he out of work and we pretty much almost lost everything, like sitting at the food pantry, like trying to figure it out, getting side jobs, different places. My husband was like delivering newspapers at 2:00 in the morning just to like make any extra income. But I was dealing with postpartum anxiety and depression. I was trying to grow this business. I was going through this secondary identity crisis where I was like known in network marketing that was my thing. And now I'm starting brand new. But I just felt this nudge to keep going. I just felt this call to like just keep going. And so when my husband was reemployed, if we fast forward a little bit there, we still needed to catch up on our bills. And I actually got a job at a bookstore, Barnes and Noble, like as a cashier. I just started working to make the extra money to send my kids to school from 9 to 12, 3 days a week, because I knew that if I had that focused time, I could get some stuff done. And so we became passing ships. He'd come home at 5:45. I'd go to work 6 to 10. And that was one of the most humbling times of my life because it felt like this mirror was pointing back at me. And the mirror said what a man actually said to me one day at work. I was helping him in the business section and he said, oh, you seem to know a lot about this. And I said, oh, I have my own business. And he was like, no offense, but like, if you have your own business, why are you here? And it was like, oh, because that's what I thought the whole time, right? Like, I was so afraid of people seeing me there, but I thought you had this business. I thought because at this point, my business was about a year old. I was still throwing spaghetti at a wall. And I used that as kind of momentum to remind myself of why I was doing it. And so I worked there for about a year till the pandemic when I got furloughed. And after the pandemic, I didn't go back because it was 2020 and moms needed help with work at home moms and routines. And I just had been consistent in there. And since then, that was about 3 years ago, you know, my business has just blown up since, because my approach is different because it's different for moms. And now I get to do it full time and I work as a productivity coach. My book came out in January and it's been this incredible journey of becoming a person that doesn't struggle with as much perfectionism, someone who can now have boundaries. Like, I don't work after 3. Like, I just don't anymore. And I'm not burnt out all the time. I'm not stressed and feeling like I have to show up for everyone and everyone else before me. It's a good place to be in. Now, is it hard sometimes? Yes, I'm still managing. Like I said, I think I said that I have 3 kids. They're 5, 7, and 16. So like, I'm still doing that. I coach cheer and I'm a Girl Scout leader. Like, I'm still doing life, but I'm not doing it in a way that feels detrimental to my mental health anymore. And it feels aligned. You know, instead of that balance we look for, I encourage people to strive for that alignment in your season. Yeah. And I feel like a good place now. So that's a massive Cliff Notes story of kind of how I got to this place, and I'm sitting here now, you know, able to help moms figure out how they can do the same.
Yeah. It's so relatable, Cara, because you've had so many different transformations and it seemed like it kept going back to the same core thing, like gosh, I'm losing myself in this job. I'm losing myself in this and that. And you kind of had that nudge that always kept being like, oh, keep going, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think for anyone listening to note that this didn't happen just like in the past 6 months. Like,
Right.
this has
It's a
been
journey.
a long journey. And it made me kind of laugh when you mentioned, like, oh my gosh, like I would have never listened to personal development. I remember coming home from school in high school. My mom was always watching like Oprah, and like Tony Robbins would be on there, or some other type of like personal development person. My mom's just like so into it watching it. And I'm like, I don't get like anything they're saying. Like, what? And now I'm just like, give me all of it. Like, I want to soak it all in. And compound effect, we talk about that a lot here on the show and incorporate it in a lot of our coaching as well. You know, I think life is a journey and it's full of all of these transformations. And I want everyone listening to kind of take note of that. It's okay to transform and change. And I'm sure you'll transform in the next 3 years as well, Cara, as your life changes, as your season of life changes, as a family, as an entrepreneur, all of that. So I think that's really important to note. I do want to talk about your book, though. It's called The 15-Minute Formula. And I love this so much. We're all about healthy habits here and kind of bridging the gap. Like, okay, coming from a fitness professional, I see a lot. Okay, we know what we know to do to be healthy, but how the heck do we do it? Like, how do we find the time? And I love how you make it simple in the 15-minute formula. So can you kind of give us a little overview of that? I think our audience would find it super helpful.
Sure. Yeah. And going back to that personal development thing, like how full circle, like it just clicked in my head as you were saying it. Like I used to be like, that's weird. And then I wrote a personal development book. I'm like, wait a minute, see how this happens.
Isn't that funny?
We don't stop though. We never stop and reflect. And I mean, I tell my story a lot, right? Like, but for some reason, this conversation just now had me stopping and realizing how far. And I always tell my moms, like, listen, I want you to achieve your goals, but what I care more about is that person that you become along the way and the confidence that you grow. Like, great, go run your marathon, but like look back 3 months and be like, holy crap. 3 months ago, I said, I was thinking of starting a blog. 3 months ago, I said, I wanted to get up at 5 a.m. and do whatever it is for you. Mm-hmm. So I just want to encourage everybody listening today. Like this was like an in real time reflection. I was like, look at that, do that for yourself as you're going on the journey, because this is where the book idea came from. It came from the fact that we have this all or nothing mentality. And we think that if it doesn't look like perfect in our heads, this like 4-hour like morning routine or whatever, we shouldn't even try. And this is where the confidence piece comes in as well. And I'll tell you, I didn't ever want to write a book. I had like no interest. I know it's on its bucket list for so many people, but it came for me because there wasn't anything out there that I felt was really quality for moms when it came to productivity. Mm-hmm. Everything is get up at 5 a.m. or you're a failure. Like your why needs to be bigger than your excuses. And it's just rooted in shame. It's rooted in perfectionism and it's rooted in guilt. And I was like, no, we need something better and we need something different. And so I use the principles I teach in the book to write the book and get it done. I call it my book baby. It was like idea to publish in 9 months because I just knew that this needed to go out there. And so the concept of the 15-minute formula is looking at the time you have and using it in smaller chunks to see success in these micro wins that grow over time. Because what I notice happens is we do the thing where we get really excited, right? Like January 1st, right? I know we mentioned this would come out January. So how many goals did you put on your vision board, y'all? Like think about it. Like what's that plan you have? Because we know that by mid-February, most people have lost those goals, right? And one of the reasons it is because we make it too big. We do the thing. So I call it the Monday mentality. Okay, if you've ever like gone on a diet, this. You're like, I'm gonna go to the gym for like 2 hours a day and like never eat a chocolate or sniff a carb and like it's gonna be great, right? Like that's how we do. And then Monday we wake up, we do it because we're still like, excited. The motivation is there, but motivation is fickle. And what happens on Tuesday is that it's too much, it's too overwhelming, and our brains cannot wrap around it. Our brains are like, no, I'm done now. I'm not sure where to go from here. And so then we quit and we say, I'll just try it again on Monday. Monday becomes next week, next month, next year. How many of those goals did you make for your 2023 vision that have been on there for a while and you haven't gotten momentum? It's because you're overwhelming yourself because society tells us we should do more, be more, go a million miles an hour, or we don't want it bad enough and we're failing. But instead, I want to encourage everyone to take a step back. And I hear this a lot from my moms because they'll be like, oh my God, this feels like it's going to take forever if I slow down. And I kindly say, but how's it going so far? Like, how is it going right now with trying to do a million things, right? It's not, because you get overwhelmed and you quit. So what if instead we created an action plan that actually is done in just 15 minutes a day? We slowed down and we let enough be enough. And in this concept of micro wins, I teach 4 different types of goals. We break them all down differently to make moves in 15 minutes a day. And while I know it doesn't feel like enough, our brains can wrap around 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes will easily have me scrolling on TikTok and turn into an hour, right? But I could put on a timer and I can unload my dishes in 15 minutes, right? I can read a personal development book in 15 minutes. I can clean out that thing or do one thing off my work list. If you can wrap your brain around the fact that 15 minutes counts, that's where that compound effect and it starts to add up. The other thing that I noticed is the 15 minutes will help you grow your confidence. So we talked a little bit about this, but that empowerment is so key for moms in particular because we've lost it. We've had the same goals on our list. We've tried and failed, tried and failed, tried and failed. It's like, what is it? The definition of insanity, right? It's like doing the same thing. That's what we do. But then we think it's our fault. And we think, I don't have enough willpower. And I want to encourage moms, I don't care about it's not about your willpower. It's about your plan. Motivation is something you have to grow. That is a muscle. So what if instead you made a plan that allowed you to grow confidence because you're like, cool, I'm doing this one task today. Whatever the heck else happens is what it is. If I get my one task done, I'm calling that a win. And then we have a lot of different frameworks and formulas for stacking and adding to it, but it starts with that one. Show up for yourself for 15 minutes a day. Now, I'm going to say this, you're worth more than 15 minutes a day, but our brain often tells us we're not. Our brain says, no, I'm not. The dishes are full. I've got all these things to do. Everybody needs me. I come last. And my method is different. It's let's look at you first. Where are your 15 minutes going to go? Let's grow that. And then you're going to grow the confidence. And then again, 3 months later, look back and be like, holy crap, look at me. I showed up for myself. And that showing up is going to trickle into all the other goal categories in your life.
Okay, real quick. I know you have felt this way before too. You start a new healthy habit routine and you find a good flow, but then life gets in the way and you find yourself in a new season of life or a new year, and that healthy habit routine just isn't working for you anymore. Instead of just giving up, join me for the next live Healthy Habit Reset, January 10th, 11th, and 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So during the reset, you will learn the simple 5-step habit change method that I only share in this masterclass, where I take the overwhelm and confusion out of health and teach you how to reset your habits for whatever season of life you are in. The new year is a really great time to reevaluate what habits are working for you or not. And of course, we're going to have a heavy dose of habit strategy from the female perspective. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. How long is this going to take me? I know your time is precious. So each day will only be there for about 15-20 minutes max, and replays will be sent out to you. Plus, I'll have a workbook to help you take action so it won't take up a ton of your time. So go to bit.ly/healthy habit reset to sign up and reserve your spot. I'll see you inside of the reset. All right, let's get back to the show. Totally. Well, in 15 minutes seems a lot easier to wrap your head around versus like, okay, well, in an hour, I'm going to do, like you mentioned, like, oh, like a big 4-hour morning routine or whatnot. Because, when you're trying to start a new habit or even just doing something for yourself, that takes brain power. And sometimes I just don't have that extra brain power. Like to open up another tab in my head, I just cannot. I cannot. But doing something small for 15 minutes and over time, like you said, maybe stacking on something new to that later on, or over time, it feeling just like easy. It doesn't feel hard anymore. Then you're like, oh, look at me. That compound effect. Like I'm in it, I'm winning. And like you said, that's going to build that motivation, but also that confidence. And then from there, we call it the positivity snowball, where it's just snowballing. And you're like, gosh, I'm feeling so dang good. What else can I do? What else can I do? I love that so much. That seems so much more attainable.
Yeah, our brains make everything bigger, right? Our brains make it seem insurmountable because we've tried to climb the same mountain and we haven't been able to do it. But when you can really allow yourself to ditch the perfectionism, because I think that's the root of all of this, is perfectionism. The root of all of this is like, okay, so yesterday, for example, my daughter got sick. She stayed home. What I could have easily done was say, screw it, guess I can't work today. None of it matters, because the day isn't perfect. So the method I teach is actually, I call it intentional imperfectionism. It's not like I'm a Debbie Downer and like, everything's awful. It's life's going to happen. So what's your plan for when it does, right? What's your backup plan for this? And how can you start to change the way you look at your goals and say, maybe this didn't work out perfectly because life threw me a curveball today, but what can I do to show up for myself today to continue to grow the confidence that on hard days, I can still do something, because something is better than nothing, even in, heck, a 5-minute chunk, right? But I think it comes with that mindset.
Yeah. Well, you even talk about, priority-based productivity. A lot of times I hear the word productivity and I'm like, oh, I think some people think of that as like hustle. Yeah. But I feel like you can have like personal growth productivity. And a lot of times I feel like as working moms, we don't include ourselves as that priority because we feel that guilt. Yep. Right? Mom guilt is so real. No matter how much personal development I do, it still creeps in sometimes. Yep. Absolutely. Like I have some ways to kind of overcome it. But sometimes women, I feel like a lot of working moms that I know you talk to and I talk to as well, they get so deep in that guilt, they just can't get themselves out of it. So how can someone start including themselves in that priority? Because I think sometimes when we're thinking productivity, we're thinking more like to-do list. Okay, what do I need to get done today? This kid needs to be here. We're going to put dinner in the crock pot, blah, 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 blah. But how can I make myself a priority without that guilt too?
Yeah, 100%. And I know there's so many people who probably saw the title and they're like, I don't want to talk about this, right? Like we don't like to. And there's people, I'm very driven. I'm very type A. I love productivity stuff. And there are people who are not. And that is okay. And I think we, society, me, hand up, right? Like I want to go to Pinterest and I want to print a chart and I want it to tell me what to do and fix my life. Like, come on, like where is that? But what we're not doing is being intentional and focused on our priorities. We see somebody doing it on Instagram. We think that's what it's supposed to look like. And if we're not doing it, we're failing. So what I encourage everyone to do is use a seasonal approach to their productivity. Because I was talking on a coaching call with one of my clients yesterday, and she actually had said, next week I'm helping my dad plan his birthday party. And I wasn't going to do it, but I put it on my plate. And what's changed for her, she said, was she used to look at it and be like, all right, well, I guess I can't do anything this week because I have to plan the party. But what she said instead was, I know that I won't be able to do it at the same level, but I'm still going to be intentional about the plan and just back it up a little bit because my week is a little wild. So I think the first step before, and I'll talk to you about my 5-step planning process that's going to help with this, but the first step is always looking at your seasons. And a season can be a week, a month, a year, a quarter, whatever you want, but like what's going on? So we're just, when this airs, we're ending the holiday season. During the holiday season, like I'm not putting a lot of stuff on my plate because I've got other things going on. So I want you to look at your next month and ask yourself, what season are you in? When my kids are in sports and activities, I mentioned I'm a Girl Scout leader. Cookie season is starting, which means every weekend, like we're at cookie booths doing stuff on top of I coach competition cheer. So like we're just all over the place. I'm not putting a ton of stuff on my plate right now because this season of my life is very busy with activities. So what I know I need is I need to make sure I have a self-care focused goal. Because my season is busy, I want to make sure I'm hitting it on the other end. So that's the first thing is like, look at what your season is coming up and make a plan around that. You don't have to work on all your goals at the same time. So you can decide what season it makes the most sense for. My husband is a school principal. So August, September, like, I don't know, bye, I'll see you later. Like, I don't see him at all. So what I know I need to do is be intentional and proactive in advance and say what goals make sense to set me up for success. So I might make a whole bunch of like crock pot meals or something in the beginning of August. So I don't have to worry about thinking about dinner because I know I'm going to be riding solo for most dinners, right? Like that intentionality is what allows you to make priority-based decisions in your productivity. Now, when I'm talking about priority-based productivity, it's what matters to you. So this is the process I teach when it comes to planning maybe your week out. So we'll just look at a week for this. The first thing most people do is also my first step, and it's putting down what you have to get done. Your appointments, you got to go to work, your work hours, kids' activities. That's pretty common. If we don't write it down, we're going to forget where we're supposed to be and when. You've got to start there first. But then I want you to take a step back from your planner, because what most of us will then do is say, oh man, I need to go get this holiday gift for the teacher. I need to run to Target to get this. I need to do that. And then they start filling in all the other little stuff they need to do for everyone else. Before we do that, I'm going to say, let's think about you first. Because what happens is we fill in what everybody else needs. We fill in all those other responsibilities. And then we say, I don't have the time for my goals, right? I want you to look at your time different. So the first thing that you're going to do is put 15 minutes in for what I call a numerical based goal. So we're not gonna have time to go like super deep into each of the different types. So I'll clip notes them for you, but numerical goals are like simple to break down. These are math. So I want to read a book. Say I'm like, I want to read a 250-page personal development book, The 15-Minute Formula. It's a great one. Like, go get it, right? Go check that one out. You're going to take that number-based goal. You're going to divide it by how many days of the week you're going to work on it. So I don't ever recommend working on anything for 7 days. I know there's, it's controversial. 21 days makes a habit, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not perfect. And if I'm working on loading my dishwasher and we come home after activities and I don't want to do it, I might not do it. And that's okay, because I always pick 5 days. So I have a 2-day buffer to still hit my goals. So when I said 250 pages, it's because maybe 25 days out of the month, you're choosing to read instead of 30. You want to give yourself some buffer. So in a numerical goal, you do the math and you break it down and you say, okay, cool. This tells me I need to read 10 pages a day. I will get the book done by the end of the month. And you put 15 minutes of that. 15 minutes of reading. That's it. Audiobook, paperback, whatever works for you. It's just 15 minutes. I want you to drop it in your time blocks, wherever makes sense for you. 5 days a week. Every day could be different. Doesn't have to always be the same. Or however many days you decided. Take a step back. I still have time on my schedule, right? Like, it's not super full. It's just 15 minutes. So we're going to keep going because we've got one thing for you. Then we're going to put in 15 minutes for what I call a project-based goal. These are goals that like have an end to them. I feel like sometimes the numerical goals tend to go the whole year, but project-based goals could be like decluttering your house or starting a podcast or, planning a birthday party, like things that you need to do. And we are going to Disney in a couple of weeks. And so planning Disney is like a huge project-based goal for me, right? In my system, you break down your goals into 15-minute tasks. So you want to keep them small and attainable. So what you'll do is you'll take your project-based goal, you'll break it down into 15-minute tasks. And then again, you just divide it. How many days a week do you want to work on it? How many tasks do you have to complete it? You know how many tasks you have to get done or how many 15-minute sessions. Now, where on your 5 days are you going to work on your project-based goals? Okay, so instead of writing declutter, I'm going to say I'm going to declutter the top of my fridge. And I'm going to write that exact thing in my planner. Not just declutter, not declutter the kitchen. What is the 15-minute task? And I'm going to put it in there. Take a step back. Oh, look, I have 30 minutes in my day. Oh, sorry, let me start that over. I just hit my mic. I have 30 minutes in my day scheduled out. That's it. Okay, cool. What are we going to do next? So the third thing I want you to add in is 15 minutes for a routine or a habit. So maybe you have a morning routine that you want to start. Now, I teach a routine stacking concept, so it's not doing all of it at once, but it's like one piece of the routine. So maybe you decide you have this great routine you want to start. It would take an hour total, but you start with one. What's 15 minutes of the routine? So I'm going to get up and take a 15-minute walk in the morning, do a 15-minute meditation. Put that in your planner next. Back up. All right, we've got 45 minutes. Still feels like I have some space. Last 15 minutes is going to go to learning. Listening to a podcast, reading a book, watching a YouTube, taking a course. This could be skill development. We have moms in my group that are learning languages or how to play the guitar. We have moms that are working on personal growth, mindset, confidence, etc. Whatever it looks like for you. I think we often forget about that piece of learning and growth. So where does that fit in? Maybe it's in the car while you're driving to, and from activities. Maybe it's in your earbuds while you're making dinner, but write it down and don't just write personal growth. Don't just write learning. Don't just write read. I want you to say, I'm going to take this specific lesson from this course. I'm going to listen to this specific podcast. I'm going to hear this chapter. That way your intention is set. My method is all about intentionality and grace to say, cool, it didn't happen, but what's the plan? So now that you can back up from your calendar, it's just an hour. Again, you're worth more than an hour, but you can start there. And now you fill in the target runs. Now you fill in the phone calls. Now you fill all the other crap you got to do for everybody else. But you start with you. And if even that feels too much, I tell moms to start with the first one. Just do 15 minutes of a numerical goal the first week. And then week 2, add 15 minutes of numerical, 15 of project. And then you stack it. This is my routine stacking method, but then week 3, numerical, project, habit. And then week 4, you add the learning. So make it even slow and steady for you so that you can start to switch your brain around. I don't have the time for me. I don't deserve the time for me. Everyone else needs me. And that time is more valuable to, I deserve 15 minutes. Wait, I also deserve this 30. I can fit in an hour for me in my day. And it actually doesn't feel exhausting. And I don't feel as guilty because it's an hour. And then you keep going and your brain starts to say, this is doable. I am capable. I've got this.
And your family wins. too, because they get the best version of you versus
Yep.
like the burnt out version of you, right? I'm so glad you mentioned seasons of life because that's something we talk a lot about in the self-transformed world because maybe we're moving and grooving with our healthy habits and we're like, I am feeling so great. And then you go into a season like spring is really busy for us because both of our boys play a spring sport. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I can't keep up with what I was doing. And I think so many times women will just be like, well, I just can't do anything then. Or you just like, oh, it's that all or nothing, that perfectionism mentality that comes into play. But like you said, can I do a little bit of it? Can I do an abbreviated version of it? And I love how you mentioned to be so intentional and have grace, but also very specific at the same time. It's not like work out this week. Like you're like, I'm going to ride my Peloton for 20 minutes Monday morning, like, and just schedule it every Monday or every Monday for a week or something like that. Like that's so much more intentional and specific, and you're more likely going to do it versus just being like, I'm going to work out this week.
Yes. And the decision fatigue is real. So what I recommend you do before the month starts is you take 5 days for 15 minutes a day, you put on a timer and you work on making the plan for the month, and you just map it out before the month starts. You don't have to be so specific where you're like, this date I'm reading this, but you can say this week I want to get this accomplished, because I also noticed this is a struggle some of my moms have where they'll want to over plan. And what happens is life, right? And so what I say is divide it up by weeks, like make your month plan. Maybe we'll go back to the book example. You break it down where you're like, I'm reading 5 days a week, and you say like pages 1 to 10, 11 to 20, etc. Right? And you have that broken down. I use Trello to do it, but you can do it in a workbook, whatever. So you have that broken down, and you just have it for like week of. And then on Sundays, you go in and you do this planning method I said, and you can customize, because what'll happen is you'll say, on Mondays, I'm going to read, or I'm going to do this workout or whatever. But what if that Monday your kid has a field trip and you're chaperoning? What's the plan? So instead you say, I'm intentional about what's going to get done by the end of the week. So I go from a month, which feels really big, to I know by the end of each week. And then I can customize it on Sunday so that I'm saying, this is what fits where. And then at the end of the week, I can say, okay, these goals didn't get accomplished, so then we're going to move here. And then I'm redoing my numerical math. I'm adjusting and auditing. I think part of the perfectionism is that we get stuck in like, we don't want to make our planner ugly. Like we don't want to cross things off. We don't want to move, which is why I like Trello, because you can move things and it still looks pretty.
Yeah.
But don't also get caught in the over plan, because that also gets us stuck in the perfectionism of this day didn't go, screw it. Instead, again, plan for each week. And then on Sundays, you decide what your 5 days are, or your 3 days. Or like I mentioned, that client Jessica, she was like, hey, I normally do 5 days of my Bible reading. I'm just going to do 3. Cool. You get to customize that way. It's, again, intentionality and proactivity over reactivity and shame.
Absolutely. Well, and when this episode is airing, everyone has gotten their new planners and they've made their vision boards and they're just planning. I mean, I have done it too, where I have just like, I've set like a whole day aside, which is great, especially at the end of the year, going into a new year, planning for the new year. I get my yearly calendar and planning out what's going on for the whole year. But then how do you actually take action on that? You mentioned Trello as one of the tools you use. What are some other tools that you use? Or if you want to highlight Trello as well, because I love using Trello as well, because it's pretty.
Yes, exactly. Well, so I will say this too. Trello's free. It's a great tool. It's a project management software. I tried it 3 times over 2 years until it finally stuck. So I think sometimes people think like you should one and done it. The other thing I want to say about planning is that I was at a conference a few years ago, and I remember this so distinctly because the person on stage was like, you need to pick paper or electronic. Like it's too confusing if you have both. And I was like, no,
I do both.
I don't want to pick. I am a hybrid. I am 100% a hybrid, and there's nothing wrong with that.
True.
But I do think it's important to not get caught up in the fact that we think the planner is going to solve our problems. It's not the planner, right? It's the plan. And we get caught in this thing where I know it's like this huge, I say it sarcastically, this huge secret, but did you know, like, you don't have to fill in every line of your planner? Like, just because there's a line there, we don't have to put something there, but we get really caught up in that. And so I think what's important is coming up with and finding yourself like 2 tools that work. One that's lets you plans out the big picture, and one that's your day-to-day. For some people, Trello might be it for everything. For me, I break all my goals big picture for the month like those columns, those lists I was explaining, like that's in Trello, so I can move it. And then when I do my Sunday planning, I do it in my physical planner, because there is something about crossing things off that just feels really good to me. And so I want to do that. And if it's not there, I don't see it. I will say we've also moved to using ClickUp for our team. So all my personal goals are on Trello, but for our team organization, we use ClickUp. So if you're thinking about like a business tool to get organized, I do very similar things that I do in Trello and ClickUp. It just worked better because we had more people on the team. But trying to find what works for you. The other thing I'll say is when you're trying to find tools is you want something that also helps you get on the same page with your other stakeholders. So I tried to get my husband on Trello. We've tried so many times. He just is not about it. He's not. And we were going back and forth with like, we need a system that works. What is this going to be? And I had to like, not let him win, but I had to like decide that this is the thing I tell the moms all the time. We want to control everything, but I need you to look at the big goal, right? Like I want to control the fact that my son should brush his teeth after he gets dressed because he will be covered in toothpaste, right? Like I really want to control that. But when I taught them their morning routine, I realized that the actual goal is that he brushes his freaking teeth. So does my kid go to school every day with toothpaste on his shirt? Yeah, probably. Yep. But guess what? I didn't have to fight him for it and he did it. So I think when we can, back to that perfectionism, not everyone's going to load the dishwasher like us. Not everyone's going to want to do it. So when we can say like, what's the actual goal and get our ego out of it, we can make progress. So that was just like a little side tip for anybody who might have hit somebody a little bit in the feels there that they needed to hear. But I asked him, what do you use for your calendar? Like, what will you use? Because we were going from a place where we were just using like that wall calendar that nobody looked at. And I was like, we need a joint system. I wanted to try Trello. You don't seem to want to use it. You're not adding things to it. So what do you use? And he was like, Google Calendar. I said, fine. Now, I didn't want another tool. I didn't use Google Calendar for my calendar. I wanted it to be my way because that's how it is, right? Like things should be my way. But I realized that the end goal was that we had a joint calendar. So we just used Google Calendar for it. And then we're on the same page. So when you think about your tools that are going to help you this year, a planner is a tool. It's not an answer, right? Trello is a tool. It is not an answer. Google Calendar is a tool, not an answer. It's how you use it. So what are you going to use? If you are up for a learning curve of learning a new system, cool. If not, stick with what works. And what is going to make you most efficient? And so for me, that's personal goals go in, like personal dates go in Google Calendar. My goal planning goes in Trello. And then I do it in a day-to-day planner. So that's kind of how my system works for me.
I love it so much. And it's trial and error. Like you said, you'd had to try Trello a couple of times. Like I love a good paper calendar, but I've tried a couple of different ones where I'm like, well, this is just collecting dust about like June, July. I'm like, oh, I haven't used it since January. It must not have been the planner that was for me, which is fine. Cara, I could talk to you forever. You're speaking all of my love languages. Yes. We're going to make sure to link a Purpose-Driven Mom, your show in the show notes, and your book, The 15-Minute Formula, because everyone's probably like already on Amazon ordering it. But where can everyone else connect with you and find out more about you?
Yeah. So in the day-to-day, I'm over on Instagram at a Purpose-Driven Mom, and I will actually send you to the 15minuteformula.com/free. That's where I have a workbook that accompanies the book. It goes really well with the book, but if you don't want to get the book, the workbook's great too to get you started. And it helps you figure out your word of the year, the time management strategies. Inside each of the back of the chapters of the book, there's action steps. And so all of those accompany the workbook. And it's linked up to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, which I didn't even tell this part of the story. So full circle. It's very hard as a self-published author to get into Barnes & Noble. They just like really don't do it. But when my book was getting ready to come out, I had made great connections and I asked them, hey, like, will you put a couple copies on the shelf? And they were like, we'll do one better. Why don't we order 70 and do a book signing? And I said, oh my gosh. So yeah, so my book is, if you want a signed copy, it's over in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, where I live. You can call, they'll mail you signed copies. But because it's on the Barnes & Noble thing, it's on the site. And so you can get it at Barnes & Noble too, which cool. Again, I think we need to look back at our journeys. Like if that part of my life didn't happen, that would not have happened for me. And that's huge. And so even in the valleys, right, there's always something gleaming on the other side. But anyway, the 15minuteformula.com/free and the Purpose-Driven Mom Show is my podcast.
Full circle, Cara. Cool. That is so freaking cool. I love it. I got chills. I got goosebumps. Cool.
Every time I tell it, I get chills because it doesn't feel real. Cool. Like it feels like something you see on TV. It doesn't feel like a real thing.
That's just part of your transformation journey, right? You've empowered yourself. I love it so much. Cara, thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah, this was super fun.
Cara, thank you so much for this conversation. Friends, I will make sure to link everything in the show notes so you can connect with Cara and get some of her free resources that she mentioned, or maybe go grab her book, The 15-Minute Formula. I hope you feel empowered to take small, little, tiny baby steps in regards to your habits and seeing that big transformation that will happen over time, losing that all or nothing mentality and leaning into what is your capacity and what you can do now and how that will build up over time. So that leads me into my 3 biggest takeaways. So number 1 is simply the compound effect. I love that book. I'm so glad Cara brought it up. If you haven't read it yet, it's by Cara Harvey. It's a really great, my son actually just read it. But 15 minutes doesn't feel like enough, but hello, the compound effect, right? If you put a timer on and kind of time or do a habit inventory, like we have a habit inventory sheet in the transformation shop if you need some help figuring out where your time is going and how much time certain tasks are taking you, make sure to go get that at transformationshop.co. But what you're doing is, like Cara mentioned, you're planting little seeds of confidence and creating empowerment for yourself. I mean, it feels so good, right? You're having those micro wins. You're building so much confidence that maybe you didn't have before. It feels good. And over time, that adds up to a massive transformation. Number 2, you deserve to take time for yourself. Oh my goodness. Well, the 2 biggest challenges I hear in my community is time and guilt when it comes to taking care of ourselves. Well, we all know we have to do habits differently. But like Cara mentioned, we have that Monday mentality, right? We talked about it. Like we have all of these high expectations and intentions and hopes to do the things we want to do for ourselves. And we do too much at once, and that leads to overwhelm. And knowing that motivation will come and go, what will serve you instead is your habits, right? You kind of go through these cycles of like you try and you fail and you try and you fail. And when you have so many failures over time, that just leads you to not want to keep doing it or thinking that you just don't deserve to take time for yourself because your family needs you. And I get that. I get that. Your family relies on you so much, but they deserve to have a present, a patient, and a mom coming from a place of overflow instead of overwhelm, right? Or a lot of times we just think we think it's our fault, right? We just don't have enough willpower. I'm just not disciplined enough. I can't build consistency. That's something I hear a lot from my community. And really, it's just not your fault. We just have to have some strategies in place and to do it differently in order to build that confidence. So thinking about taking those 15 minutes of time, being like, I deserve more than 15 minutes, obviously, like Cara mentioned, but that will build up over time, right? And then lastly, productivity, not hustle. Yes. So having that plan that doesn't overwhelm you. I love how she mentioned having priority-based productivity. Sometimes I cringe at the word of being productivity and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be busy. I don't want to hustle, but I do want to get things done in order to move my business forward, in order to keep my home a certain way, in order to, show up for my family in the best way that I can. So I'm glad she mentioned having a seasonal approach to your productivity and thinking about what's coming up and what fundamental needs you should be focusing on right now to help support you in that season. Hence why we're doing the Healthy Habit Reset. Make sure to come join us. But thinking about that fundamental need you need right now, and then, like she said, having it either maybe in a numerical goal, a project-based goal, if you have a due date with it, and then an actual habit or routine. A routine is something that is built up of many habits, which P.S. we'll be talking about habits versus routines here in the next couple of weeks, and then slowly stacking them, right? It's like the method, I almost told you what it was, the method that we teach inside of the Healthy Habit Reset, right? So these 15-minute goals at a time, you could stack them all up 4 at a time, and then eventually you have an hour of where you just took time for yourself, and man, that goes a long way over time. An hour a day, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there. If you added that up over a whole year, you would be really excited to see what you were able to do. And then a bonus tip, I love how she mentioned, having some type of tools in place, but it's how you use the tool, right? Your tool that works for you. It's not going to be like your total savior. Like, if I get this planner, I'm finally going to get my life together. Like, That's not necessarily it. So use whatever planning or organization system that works for you and even your whole family, because what works for you may not work for everyone else. And it's trial and error. It's all in how you use the tool. Lots of tools available to you, obviously, in the transformation shop. I personally use my habit tracker. So from in there, I use a paper planner and I use my Google Calendar. I know some people don't like using a hybrid, but I do. It's what works for me. So that's great. It's trial and error too, right? This past year was actually the first year I actually used a planner for the whole year. So woohoo! And that was a lot of trial and error before that. So Cara, thank you again so much for this conversation. If you want to go listen to A Purpose-Driven Mom and connect with Cara, everything is linked for you in the show notes, my friend. I'm proud of you for showing up, for starting the new year, listening to an episode about how to create and set goals. And hopefully you feel like you have maybe taken that load off a little bit, that invisible load we carry, and think about, okay, how can I do this in a more simplistic way? And Cara gave us some really great tips to do that today. If you're wanting to join us in Habit Transformation Bootcamp, remember I'm taking recruits throughout the rest of this week. If you have any questions, please let me know. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this program. I've been building it essentially for 3 years. There's been different variations of it, but it's finally all come together in such a simple way, and I can't wait to see you inside there, and also the Healthy Habit Reset. So many great ways to start off the new year, my friend. I'm here for it, and I'm here for you. I'll see you later this week. Hey girl, real quick before you go, if you want some free motivation texted to you every week to help you habit hack your health, send me your favorite emoji to 773-904-2157 to sign up for my weekly pump-up texts. I can't wait to catch up with you there. And if you have any quick questions for me or feedback, it's me on the other end, so text me back, friend. And if you love the show, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a rating and review in iTunes. That way more mamas can find the show. Tag me in your Instagram stories at Emily Nichols22 what you love about the show. Show me your review so I can shout you out. Love and appreciate you, friend. I'll see you next time.